Prior to 1997, I didn't own a PlayStation and never had regular magazine subscriptions, so I was not a very well-informed gamer at the time. There was no internet at my house either, so most of my gaming knowledge came from renting games. So it's not hard to understand why my knowledge of pre-1997 PS1 gaming still has some holes in it. It's also not hard to understand why I had no idea of Robotron X's existence until about a year ago, seeing as it was a 1996 release for the PS1. However, I didn't run right out and order the game. I've actually only owned this game for about 3 days now, and without exaggeration, a game I have owned for a mere 3 days has already become one of my favorite games for a console I've owned for a little over 2 decades now. Robotron X brings the gameplay from Midway's classic 1982 arcade release, Robotron 2084, and brings it beautifully into the 3D era of gaming. The general gameplay mechanics of the game are identical to Robotron's seemingly more popular younger brother, Smash TV, where you move with the D-pad and handle directional shooting with the face buttons. For example, to shoot up, you hold triangle, to shoot right, you hold circle, and to shoot diagonally, you hold a combination of 2 buttons at the angle you are aiming for. With the simplicity of the controls and the simplicity of the concept, kill everything and save members of the last remaining human family for points, and kill everything, the big question with Robotron isn't how do you play this game. The big question is how do you stop playing this game. You would think with the simple objectives, small simple levels, and repetitive nature of the game, Robotron X would get very old very quickly. However, for some reason this game just doesn't get old for me. As simple as just adding a few new enemies and stage obstacles seems, it really does make each level feel different from the last. However, it's not the level designs that make this game so fun, it's the thrilling feel of the gameplay, and all the things that happen in between that makes this game a blast to play. What really makes this game so great is the feeling of playing it. The player moves really fast, dies in one hit, and has to survive waves of baddies while trying to rescue the last human family on Earth, rolling this game into a very intense experience overall. At first, you may find yourself hiding on the edges of the playfield, scared to enter the middle of the field due to the hordes of baddies that lie in wait. However, once you learn how to run the middle of the map, the game finally clicks, and the addiction takes off from there. This is a game that the high points in the game come not from stupid, scripted story elements, overdone, overproduced, bad storylines that aren't interesting, but from those unscripted moments that happen during the gameplay. For every time you throw your hands in the air and say, "What the heck just killed me? How did I just die?" you'll almost equally say, "How the heck did I just survive that?" There is something so satisfying about successfully navigating through hordes of baddies, dodging enemy fire, and successfully running through gaps to dodge touching foes that gets you into that hardcore gaming focus. You get in the zone. On the flip side of this, one death, and there will be many, can throw your focus off and lead to many more, knocking you out of the zone as you try to regain your composure and get back into beast mode. That brings up another high point I experienced while playing. Those times when you're down to your last 3 lives, stuck in a tough level and are close to giving up but somehow manage to recover from the deficit and earn back enough lives to confidently continue on to the next level. It's really hard to narrow down all the high points and all the thrills of playing this game. There are just so many, and this is a game you have to experience to fully understand. No matter how hard the game can be, even playing on easy like I am, call me sucky if you want, I don't care, you'll find yourself constantly saying, "I'm just going to play one more level," and then after that, just one more, and then after that, well, you get the idea. Graphically, the game is simple visuals and small maps, but the sheer amount of action going on the screen is beyond impressive, considering the PS1 hardware that is. Slowdown does occur, usually once the arenas with texture map floors come into the fray. However, the sheer amount of action on the screen required for it to show up is up to the point of insanity, where I would be more surprised if there was no slowdown at all. The game remains perfectly playable during these bouts of slowdown, so it really doesn't mar the experience at all. The camera follows the action perfectly, with the only hiccup being that it zooms in whenever you move up to the top of the playing field and then slowly zooms out when you move to the bottom, leaving the potential for you to accidentally run right into an enemy you didn't know was there. However, the game does offer a top-down camera angle, which actually makes for a just as viable way to play it as the original camera view. This trims the fat presented in a lot of other early 3D games, which offered a ton of useless angles. The sound effects are pleasing and reminiscent of the classic 80s style gaming, and I really like the electronic music in the game. On the rare chance that I had enough time to slow down and listen to it, that is. The controls are also tight and responsive. No complaints to wage there. They do everything you want them to without delay. The only complaint more modern gamers may have, or Robotron purist types may have, is that being released before the dual analog controller or the DualShock, there is no analog support for this game. However, the use of the face buttons more than compensates for the lack of the arcade original's dual stick setup. There is also an option to save your game at every level by simply pausing the game, which is a nice touch so you don't have to lose your progress. The only big downside I can see with the game is that though there is a 2-player option, it's not simultaneous play, which would have been so awesome had they been able to pull it off. Instead, players take turns like we used to in Super Mario Bros. However, this is a small complaint considering how good this game is. The game also doesn't have a period of invincibility when you die, so you can die multiple times in a row, and will even sometimes respawn you right on a level hazard for an instant unfair death. The bottom line. I haven't even owned Robotron X for a week, and it's already one of my favorite PS1 games. This is how retro remakes are supposed to be made. Maintaining the intense gameplay of the arcade original, but successfully translating the gameplay into the 3D era of gaming. This game is easy to learn, really hard to put down, and very cheap to pick up, scoring my copy for under $10 with shipping. If you've overlooked this one like I did, I highly recommend you pick it up. Seriously, I already love this game. And a final note, I actually ordered a copy of the seemingly better-known Robotron 64 at the same time I ordered Robotron X on the PS1. However, it's still in the mail as of me making this video. I've read a little bit here and there on what the changes are from X to Robotron 64, but I do look forward to seeing if there are any significant changes or improvements. However, I can already guess that Robotron 64 is probably also just as worthy to pick up as well, and I will preempt it by recommending it to N64 gamers ahead of time, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to love this game too. And sure enough, I just went out and checked my mail after making the video and doing all the voiceover work for the video that you just watched, and there was Robotron 64 sitting in my mailbox. I've only really just kind of playtested it for about, 25 to 30 levels, and I can already tell you that this is also another spectacular game. But I can also say this. The PS1 and N64 versions of the game are actually different enough that I actually recommend looking into both of them if you have the option. The N64 version seems to use the PS1 version as inspiration for some of its level themes and design and setup, but it actually has quite a bit of a different feel, I'd say. But both are really good, just kind of different but kind of the same. I know that's not very descriptive, but seriously, the N64 version, look into this one too.